And we're back for another episode of With Sonar. It is June 14th. We're here almost at the end of the first half of the year here, Tanner. And we've got a lot to talk about. The Fed is speaking right now. We've got Jerome Powell. He's giving a little talk on the state of the economy, decided to pause interest hikes. We've got rate forecast potentially headed up. Looks like it anyways. Is there a light at the end of the tunnel? That's what we're here to discuss today. But how are you doing, Tony?
Tony.
Yeah, I called you Tony. Clearly, I'm not doing very well. And it's funny because I called you Tanner literally like 8 seconds ago.
Yeah, it's all right. You're missing Tony. I'll let him know. I am missing
Tony because normally it's, hey, Tanner, then Tony. You know, so I was going down the line there. It just so happens I went too far because Tony's not here.
I'm in Tony's spot. It's okay. Yeah, miss him. But doing pretty well. Coming up on the
not
end
as well as you could be if I called you by the right name.
If you call me by my real name, but it's okay. Yeah. Coming up on the back half, really the last 2 weeks of the first half of the year, and we've had a pretty wild year when it comes to the freight economy.
And a juicy year.
Juicy.
Yeah.
So interested to see what happens. But, man, I'm really looking forward to Cleveland next week.
Cleveland's going to be good. Future Supply Chains next week. If you don't have your tickets, then I don't even know why you're here. But it's going to be a great event. We already have over 1,000 people are signed up, registered for the event. And that was yesterday. It might even be higher than that now. A lot of people are signing up last minute.
Yeah, I've actually saw a study that I think the last couple of years since COVID that people, like the bulk majority of people aren't signing up for events until like the last week and a half.
Yeah.
So I expect to see what that total number is.
Yeah. I mean, I think last week alone we had 800 people. So there was 200 people that signed up, 250 people I think about that signed up in the last like 6 or 7 days. Yeah. So a lot of strength there. But I think it'll be nice too because we'll get to pick a lot of minds there of like, everybody's take on the markets. I'm curious to talk to other technology providers, what they're seeing. I'm curious to talk to some other shippers that I don't typically get to talk to. Not even just like the traditional shippers in procurement and transportation roles, but like what are the warehousing guys feeling? You know, what are the supply chain guys feeling? You know, and really pick everybody's brain.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is the first event where we've had like multiple people from every segment, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking in the past years we've been missing a few people, but we really did a really good job about bringing every single piece of the industry in. And so we're going to have all the great minds there, a lot of really good speakers. So it's going to be a long 2 days, but it's going to be an awesome 2 days.
And with Sonar, we'll be hosted, and very excited, Halliburton and L'Oreal will be on the show. So we get two very different perspectives, somebody much more from the industrial and the energy space, such as Halliburton, and then, of course, from the CPG retail space with L'Oreal, particularly in a very high-margin industry, such as L'Oreal. Absolutely. One of the most respected companies in the world, too.
Yeah, two very big shippers, so excited to have those on. It's going to be some great episodes.
Absolutely. Now, we just finished one holiday 2 weeks ago. Now we're headed into another one. We're going to talk about the freight markets a little bit. Is it shaking things up? How is it shaking things up? You know, last week we talked about this. Tony was forecasting. Okay, he was forecasting. He was using the FreightWaves forecast, and it just so happens that it was right. But he got to look really smart saying that, yeah, rates are going to hit 226 by Memorial Day. And of course they did, but that's what our forecast said. Now our forecast is saying that rates are going to hit by 4th of July. We're going to hit around that 232, 233 range.
Yeah, I think...
Currently sitting at 225 for reference.
Yeah, so another 6 cents increase. I think it's possible. I think really something that's kind of caught us off guard the last 2 or 3 weeks has been the West Coast. The West Coast has really kind of ticked up. Projections are up to about 6%.
Yeah.
That's all the way up from 1% just about a month and a half ago. It seems that a lot of the spot market rates, especially in California and Arizona, have really starting to take off. So I think it's not, perpendicular to the rest of the market. It is acting on its own a little bit, but I could possibly see that 230 range, we might get there.
Yeah, it really could. And some of that could just be the holiday dropping it up, but there's also a lot of carriers that have left the market too, so maybe we're feeling some of that. Volumes still haven't fallen off this year. Volumes have been very steady this year. So from a demand perspective, we haven't really lost anything. Which I think is interesting. I personally thought the demand bottom was in. Not everybody agree with me, but I think we'll find out here in a few months if that's true or not, especially with those loan repayments coming back.
Yeah, loan repayments might definitely hit. But it is going to hit discretionary spending and the amount of money that consumers are spending out in the market, but I don't know if necessarily it lowers the amount of freight that's moving in the market. I don't know. We're going to see. I'm kind of starting to be on a little bit of the same boat as you. I do think that dip, that 10-cent dip that we saw back in April in the spot market, I don't know. I was thinking that wasn't going to be the bottom, but a little bit of things picking up here in certain spots of the nation is, I don't know, making me second guess. That we might have seen the bottom.
Yeah. Time will tell exactly where it lands. It certainly feels like we've hit the bottom on the stock market. Good grief, we're up about 8 trillion% this year.
Yeah, that doesn't.
Nasdaq's up. Hold on, let me pull this up for us. Nasdaq alone is up year to date almost 38%, and the S&P 38% in a year. The S&P is up almost 15% year to date.
I think if you would have asked anybody, hey, well, how do you think the stock market's going to be green or red moving into post-COVID 2023? I don't think
Especially
anybody.
with all the rate hikes.
Don't think anybody would have told you we would have been up 30% so far.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
I mean, literally, the Nasdaq alone is flirting with 40%.
Yep. And you were telling me earlier that out of the S&P, out of the 500 stocks or S&P, you said 7? Is that what you said? 7 stocks is what's made up?
7 stocks are accounting for over 90% of the gain.
Yep. And so 7 good companies. All the rest are terrible.
Yeah. Which goes to show you that, like, when you look at this, it's like, oh, the economy's having a great year, stock market's up, 7 companies are massive companies like Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, Netflix, not really Netflix, NVIDIA, right? They're crushing it.
Yep.
Nobody else is, right? And that's, I think, the same thing, right? We see that in the freight markets too. There are some companies that are doing very well right now. Very few.
Yeah.
But there's a few. So yeah, probably important. Now, I don't think we have an index on the freight side that really makes the markets look better than they are, because we don't have a heavyweight like an Apple or Microsoft that account for such a massive percent of the market. But needless to say, markets are headed up on the stock side. So it'll be interesting to see if the freight markets choose to follow that trend. Let's go ahead and throw the forecast up, though, for folks to see. So yellow line there is the actual spot rate pretty much since the middle of March. And where the blue line starts, the blue line is the forecast for the next 28 days. So you can see 28 days from now, it looks like we're going to end around 231, reaching a peak of about 233. Oh, that looks pretty good to me.
Not too bad. Yeah, that huge V that you see there that I was talking about in kind of like the early middle of May, like I was like, wow, like 10 cents in a matter of a few days, like that's a huge drop. But seeing that quick recovery that we had, like right back up to that 223, 224 floor, that's impressive. And looking at about another 5 to 6 cent jump, that might not seem like much, Luke, but the fact that we've come down so far, like.
Yeah.
I think from what I've heard, especially on Twitter, people are like, please just give me something positive to hold on to. I think any inkling of positivity, and Zach Strickland actually told me today, he thinks that any small glimpse of positivity or upward momentum in rates, he thinks that carriers are going to jump all over it. He thinks they're going to take every opportunity they can to try to continue to push those rates up, and they're not going to stop.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And it doesn't take long for a market to flip. I mean, 2 months and the market could flip.
Good.
It's a very short period of time before everybody realizes what's happening. So, yeah, absolutely. A lot of interesting things to take a look at there. What's interesting though is, like, while that's a little bit of a bump, I mean, if we were to zoom out on the chart, we don't have it here in front of us, but if we were to zoom out, the markets are still, I mean, spot rates are still down like what, 40% almost?
Yeah, 40%.
Almost.
Yeah, 40%, still way down. I mean, the spot market got way overheated, almost $3.50 a mile, almost at one point across the nation, right? Even coming out of Florida, it was $3 a mile. So yeah, it got super, super elevated. And I think this business cycle in the trucking market, we've seen the super volatility of how high it went and how now low it's gone. It's really outside of the normal from what we've ever seen. So I think reading data is become even more important during this business cycle than it has in the past.
Absolutely. And the other thing to think about too with this is while definitely the market got overheated, right? Even though spot rates might be starting to see a little bit of life, contract rates still coming down.
Still coming down and will continue to fall. I think
so far behind.
Yeah, people are just thirsty for contracted volume, and they're going to continue to fall. I think we're at as of this morning, we're at about 239. Let's just call it 240 a mile. Great. You've got the chart up here. Yeah. So looking at contracted freight, about 240 a mile line haul. I think we've got probably another, I'd say 30 or 40 cents a mile to fall. I think we're down close to 20% year to date already. So year to date, it's fallen quite a bit, and I think we're going to continue to see that.
There. Yeah, 239. You called it line haul, right on the money. And really not that high off of where we started. You know, if you go back to, what's that, June of 2019, it's a little hard to read on the chart, but you're about 205 a mile.
Yeah, about two. Yeah, so
really only 35 cents above.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. 35 cents is a lot though if you think about it.
18%.
Yeah, 18%. And if you think
But that's
about
from 4 years ago.
correct. Yeah, it's a long time ago.
18% in 4 years isn't, especially when you think about how much costs have gone up, insurance costs, right, and equipment costs, all that stuff. 18% is not, it doesn't feel that significant.
It doesn't. And one thing I think we're about to see leading into July is you can see on the chart we're looking at here at the peak of the market on June 1st of 2022. So you're talking about just 13 days ago from a year ago. The contracted market peaked at about $2.98 per mile. So if you're a mid to large size carrier that locked in a contracted rate at the peak of the market on June 1st of last year, guess what? You have now lost that contract. That contract is gone. It's 12 months. Your business cycle, your locked in contract is over. If you're quoting that same lane and trying to keep that business, you're now losing about 60 cents per mile overnight.
Yeah.
So you went from making $2.98 per mile up until May 29th of this year, and then you went all the way down to about $2.40.
Yeah.
So it's been rough.
Yeah, and while even though we're seeing a little bit of life in the spot rates, this is line haul only for contract. So the line haul only contract is still about 14 cents per mile higher, 13 cents per mile higher than the all-in spot rate, which includes fuel.
Yep.
So even if this were to come down to where spot rates are right now, this still has the advantage because you do get that fuel surcharge on top, right? So there is still a premium in the contract market compared to spot, but it is beginning to narrow. And I think it'll be interesting to see how far it narrows too. Like spot rates went down to 2019 highs. They went down to 2019 highs. I don't know if contract rates are going down to 2019 levels. It's possible, but I don't know if shippers are going to negotiate that aggressive.
Yeah, I think some shippers are going to remember what happened to them in 2020.
Yeah.
I think some of them are going to forget. Right, some of them, they're going to go right back in that same trap that they did during COVID at the beginning, where they just got absolutely slayed in the spot market. But I think some are going to realize, like, hey, whoa, we're getting super aggressive here with the fact that we might be losing some carriers, right? Some carriers might say, I'm just not going to haul business for you if you're going to be this cheap. So I think some of them are going to realize and remember what happened to them and fix their situation. So I agree with you. I don't necessarily know if we dip all the way back down to that, like, sub $2 a mile line haul range.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, they can get away with a little more than where it is today. They can get away with a little more. So we do expect those contract rates to fall some. But yeah, I mean, I think it would probably be wise for them to land somewhere around that 220, 225 mark. Much lower than that. And you start flirting with, is it really worth it, to haul my freight, especially when the market starts to tighten up again. And with tender rejections already hitting 6% on the West Coast, that's a sign.
Yeah, if spot market starts looking appealing whatsoever, you'll have some that'll jump to it for sure.
Definitely. All right, Tanner, I got to ask you. So it's summertime, right? A lot of fun happens in the summertime, of course, right? You get to hang out with me, naturally. But aside from that, what's your favorite summer activity?
Summer activity?
Yeah.
Going to a baseball game.
Going to a baseball game.
Yeah.
Like any baseball game, it doesn't matter who it is, does it have to be your team?
Well, see, the thing is that my team is the Dodgers, and LA is quite far from Chattanooga.
It's a bit of a jump.
I don't get to go to very many games, so I do. When they come in town to the Braves, I'm at the Braves Stadium when the Dodgers come into town every year in July. But no, it doesn't matter, man. Cold beer, glizzy, sitting in the stands. Doesn't get much better than that.
Having a good time.
Having a good time. Yeah.
No, that's great. Are you going to? So there's the baseball game. Who's playing in Cleveland?
Guardians versus the Athletics.
The Athletics.
And I will be there Tuesday night.
And I have a confession to make. I don't really follow sports that much. Okay, I know. Ooh, hush, hush, whatever. I didn't know the Athletics, the A's, if you will. I didn't know that they existed until that Brad Pitt movie, Moneyball.
Yeah.
I watched that movie and I was like, huh. I was like, interesting. I wonder what team they're referring to. Like when they said Athletic A's, I thought they were kidding. I was like, oh, maybe they don't have the rights to use the real team's name.
Yeah.
Like I thought they were joking. And then I looked it up later and I was like, hey, that's a real team.
And that's a true story.
Yeah.
Moneyball. And that guy actually spoke at the FreightWaves event 2 years ago.
He did. He spoke. Well, you spoke at this event, the last one in
sorry.
Arkansas.
Yeah, absolutely.
So 2 FreightWaves events ago. Was it Bean, right? Billy Bean. Billy Bean.
That's it.
Is his name. Yeah, he spoke at the event in Northwest Arkansas,
Yep.
the Future Supply Chain event. So, moral of the story is we get great speakers. You should come.
So what's your favorite activity to do in the summertime? You have 3 kids.
I do. So it's probably changed a little bit over time. So
Okay.
like pre-kids, it's probably like I love being on the water.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what it is. Water skiing, just hanging out on a boat, sailing, you name it, right? I'm in. Now it's probably changed a little bit. I still love water, but it's like, how can I got to entertain my kids. So like, I think we're going to a pool, packing the snacks, right? Laying out, getting a little sun, playing in the water, cooling off, throwing the kids in the water. We're hanging out, we're having a good time. And I'm not talking like a little kiddie pool. It's got to be like a big pool. Need diving well, like the whole 9. I need the big thing. So we're having a good time.
Good. I like the pool too. Yeah.
Got to bring a little watermelon. Yeah. Have a good time. Any kind of fruit is always good. And you have a good time.
Do you grow up with super soakers?
Yes.
Yeah. Those need to come back.
They need to come back.
Those need to make a comeback.
They need to come back. That'll bring the freight markets back.
Yes. Elon Musk needs to build like an electric super soaker. We need super soakers, but then we need dad's super soaker. You know what I mean? Yeah, the grown-up version.
Yeah, exactly right. But you kind of going against all the little kids in the neighborhood, just be like, all right, come on, I still got it.
On the golf cart, just
That's right. All the kids running. That's what we need. So if anybody out there, if you know some suppliers who can make the super soakers, we're in. Happy to. We'll buy one and we'll get one here on the show. Water sports, absolutely right. Now, so coming back here to the freight markets just a little bit, right? We got to talk about this because truckload markets are down and contract rates are coming down specifically. The intermodal markets kind of sort of have spot, but like not really.
Yeah.
Not in the same way that the truckload market has spot. So there's a very small percent of the intermodal market that falls under spot. The vast majority, like way more, even like it's over 95% of it is contract. And that's important because when we compare these falling contract truckload rates to where the intermodal market is, there's a big potential for some of that market share to be stolen away. So, Tanner, at what point do you think it becomes attractive for a shipper to say, you know what, there's better service and faster on the truckload side. I'm going to pay a small premium and just ditch the intermodal side?
Yeah, I think somewhere in like the 15% range. So I think there has to be a difference between 15% service level in order to pay that extra for that truck, right? Because historically and continues to this day that rail is historically cheap. Right, it is a cheaper alternative, but again, you're offsetting it with service, so it's slower. A lot of the times you get hit, it ends up getting stored for a few days. You run into demurrage, then you have to wait on a drayage carrier to pick it up. So, and it gets touched, right? It gets loaded and unloaded multiple times.
Demurrage for folks that aren't familiar?
Yeah, so demurrage is it's like you get a certain amount of time when the box comes off the rail car that a drayage carrier has to pick it up. And a lot of the times, the drayage company has no control over that. It's really up to the rail, right? And if the rail holds it and they tell you, well, you got 24 hours to pick it up. Well, if you can't find somebody to pick it up, they immediately start to charge you after 24 hours for holding that box. Yeah. So a lot that ends up, these extra fees end up being added on top of what you weren't expecting to pay. It's kind of like detention for truckload.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day. I didn't know what the merge was, so maybe I'm the only person who didn't know. Thanks for sharing. Learn something new. That's why you watch Wish Sonar, to learn things like that. Okay, demurrage. That's a nice word. You can drop that in a conversation. Everybody's gonna be like, "Whoa, okay, hold on." I'm gonna guess most people who are watching this show did not know what that was.
Probably not.
I'm gonna guess. Some of you have. Okay, if we're being honest with ourselves, I'm being honest. So let's go ahead. Let's throw it up. So 15% is the magic number. Where are we at right now? 8.2%. So let's call it 8% savings shipping intermodal versus truckload. Not a lot.
Only 8. Yeah, another way the best way to put this is that it is only 8% cheaper to ship something on a rail than over the road. Yeah. Right? You're only paying 8% more for a truck, which is well worth it, right? You're getting faster transit, the lower risk of your product being damaged, right? You tracking, right? You can do check-in calls, you can see it moving on the road. A lot of times you can't do that with rail. Paying 8% extra for all those added service benefits, count me in all day.
Yeah, if we look just from just over a year ago, so in April of 2022, it was at a smidge over 14%.
Yep.
So we've seen it go from 14% to 8%. I mean, yeah, you've lost 6 points. That's a lot.
Yep.
That's a lot
and
to lose.
the reason, somebody might ask, well, how does it go from, how did it get from 14 to 8? The reason is that rail companies have a lot more buying power in the rail market than contract truckload rates do, right? Because there's only really honestly 5 or 6 IMCs in the rail market. They have a lot of pricing power. So there's definitely been a floor in rail rates for sure for a while, right? And so if rail rates aren't moving and contracted truckload rates continue to fall, that's what's making that difference, is the fact that truckload continues to get cheaper. So I don't think the story is necessarily that it's a 7% discount. I think the story here is the devaluation of over-the-road trucking.
Yeah.
Right? It's become so devalued compared to other service levels in the marketplace that it's only 7%, 8% difference. That's the problem. Yeah, truckload has become so devalued from rates dropping over the last 2.5 years. Yep.
That's a great way to put it. And really, yeah, it goes to show you hit on this, right? The biggest trucking companies in the world really only see 2.5%, 3% of the market. The biggest ones in the United States, it's 2.5%, 3% of the market. They really have very little power and control over the market, right? They might have a lot of influence within a particular company or customer,
but the market
over the actual market, very little compared to, those rail companies. They control the market. Not the companies, the market.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot of different actual rail carriers, but every single rail carrier has to go through an IMC, and there's only 5 or 6 of those, right? And so you have to use one of those IMCs in order to move freight from A to B. And so that's the reason, is that those 5 or 6 people have the pricing power, and they basically determine the market. And
there's one less now, right? Because Canadian National acquired or merged with Kansas City Southern.
Correct. So two combined, right? Yeah. So now you've got 5 really, and one of those is a broker, C.H. Robinson.
That's true.
Yep. Which is crazy, right? So the broker that only sees roughly about 3% of the market is also has huge buying power in the rail market.
Yeah. It's an amazing game how much it changes. Want to flip scripts here for just a minute. I do want to talk about something on the truckload side real quick. So this is something we don't talk a lot about this, but wait times, right? How long are trucks having to wait at facilities to get loaded and unloaded? We talk about this a lot, right? It's a pain point for carriers. The longer they wait, the more money they lose, right? Because they're not driving, they're not getting paid for those miles. Even if you're paid detention, a lot of times detention is more so just a wash, right? It's not something you want, and that's assuming you even get detention. So we want to look at these wait times here because they have started to improve. I think warehouses, and maybe this is just the bottlenecks, there's just less demand. But if we look at this chart right here, this measures the wait time in minutes over the last 5 years. It's never been this low, 114 minutes on
This is a good chart.
average. It's a great chart.
This is a really good chart. I haven't looked at this in a minute. Did not know that. 5-year low for wait times. Only 114 minutes, so that's what?
Just under 2 hours.
Just under 2 hours, which still think about it, like, I don't know, 2 hours is a long time to sit.
That's a long time. Now, I do want to add a clarifying point. This isn't 2 hours of actual loading time.
Okay.
This is measured from the time the truck enters the facility.
Okay.
Okay? So you might enter a facility, you got to go through security, you got to get to your dock door, whatever, do all the bells and whistles, right? So this includes all of that time. So the actual loading and unloading time, it could be 30 minutes.
Gotcha.
But this includes time at that facility.
So this is like a geofence situation where they're, as soon as they hit the fence or within 2 miles of the
it's about 100 meters.
Okay. Yeah. So total. But still, I mean, the fact that this is at a 5-year low tells me that loading time has gotten shorter.
Right. That's the X factor here, right? You can only get through security so quickly. You can only do your check-in stuff so quickly. But the actual loading and unloading time, that's where you make up the time.
So I guess my question here is, do you think that this is due to there being less freight per shipper per day? Or do you think that this is because shippers have become more efficient in loading processes?
Well, that's a good question. I'd love to say it's because they become more efficient, right? Because there's more automated things, right? That's helped them to kind of work in the warehouse better. But I don't know the answer to that. I don't know.
I don't know if we have, I don't know.
Yeah.
Take a look at the data. But
I mean, it's easy to point the finger at demand and say, oh, demand's down, therefore it should be easier.
Yep.
But we don't know what the labor situation's like or the automation system's like, right? So that could tell us a different story.
I think maybe both. I think it's a little bit both.
It could be.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of investments made over the last 3 years by a lot of shippers into the warehousing side of things to help automate. So that definitely could have played a role. But yeah,
That's a great chart.
we'll try to figure that out. We got a big warehousing session going on at Future Supply Chain, so maybe we can figure something out there, and we'll come and share the results with you if you're not able to make it. But anyways, folks, we will be doing with Sonar next week, but it will be at the show. So tune into the live stream there, and hopefully you can catch a little something. If not, we'll see you the following week, and have a fantastic rest of your day.